Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mung Bean Soup for the Soul. Tonight we're going to continue. This will be the third reading of the Microbe Factor by Dr. Hiromi Shinya, MD. Number one endoscopic surgeon in the world, voted on by his peers, done over 370,000 colonoscopies since the mid-60s, co-inventor of the colonoscope. Many things he's done that are copied by surgeons all around the world. And you'll be surprised what he has to say about modern medicine. Without any more delay, I'm going to start where I left off last night. Although they are extremely small and barely visible through the microscope, microorganisms have the strength of numbers. Presently, the explosion of human population is an issue, but human population, nothing compared to the populations of microorganisms on Earth. There are 100 million to 1 billion microbes in a single gram of fertile soil. Whew! You get those numbers, 100 million to 1 billion microbes in a single gram of fertile soil, and 100 trillion of them in the intestines of a human being. We should pay attention to that. Of course, we don't see these vast populations because they're almost invisibly small. A bacterium is 1 over 500 to 2,000 millimeters. A yeast of fungi family measures over 5,000 millimeters. And a virus measures 1 over several tens of thousands to several hundreds of thousand millimeters. I know these are big numbers, but believe me, these things are small. The existence of such a vast number of microorganisms implies that they have an excellent capacity to adapt to changes in their environment. With regard to temperature, for example, these microorganisms broadly classified into the groups of cytophiles, which promulgate at temperatures between 77 degrees Fahrenheit, mesophiles, which promulgate at 77 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and thermophiles, which promulgate at between 113 and 176 degrees Fahrenheit. Microorganisms that can promulgate at high temperatures exceedingly 194 degrees Fahrenheit are discovered recently. Also, there is salt-loving organisms which thrive where saline concentration is high, sweet-loving organisms which thrive in high concentrations of glucose, acidophiles which favor acidic environments with low pH, while others favor alkaline environments high in pH. Anaerobes, which can survive without oxygen, and aerobes, which thrive in environments with good ventilation. Clearly, living organisms can survive in a wide range of environments. We are coexisting on our planet with these vast numbers and types of microorganisms, all multiplying and prospering around and through us. Unless we know about them, we cannot know the truth about our own world. From our point of view as human beings, there are both a bright side and a dark side to sharing the planet with microorganisms. By viewing both sides, we will come to understand a little better how we can thrive on a living earth. The next chapter is, or the next section of this chapter is a deadly impact of viruses. It probably will come to no surprise to you that humans have been threatened throughout our existence by diseases caused by pathogen microorganisms. Viruses are a typical example. Viruses are neither organic nor inorganic. They neither metabolize nor breathe by themselves, and they are parasitic in the cells of other organisms, promulgated inside the cells of the host. In the process, they destroy these cells, and the newly promulgated viruses move on to invade new cells and promulgate again. As a result of such promulgation, the host will develop various diseases, such as the flu or the common cold. Sometimes the host dies, but even this death will not stop the viruses from jumping to a new healthy host to promulgate again. Contagious diseases brought on by viruses have rampaged throughout all parts of the world since ancient times. This is written, by the way before COVID-19, just so you know, this has nothing to do with that. The virus that causes influenza triggers several symptoms, while a cold generally affects the nose and throat. The influenza virus has a short incubation stage of about a week after initial infection. Then symptoms such as fever, fatigue, and joint pains appear. Most of the time, flu doesn't kill, but it can be an extremely serious disease nonetheless, causing complications like bronchitis and pneumonia, triggering encephalitis. The Spanish flu, which spread throughout the world in 1918 to 1920, is well known. In those days, nobody knew that it was caused by a virus. A staggering 30% of the world population was infected. In the United States, 500,000 to 670,000 died. Worldwide, the death toll is estimated at 50 to 100 million. More recently, we have been hit by other virus-related diseases. Aside from influenza, there were AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, which destroys all the human functions of the body, SARS, S-A-R-S, severe acute respiratory syndrome, which rampaged in China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and non-virus, which affected 10 million people or more in 2006. Among influenza, in 2004, infection of bird flu was confined to Japan for the first time in 80 years, and poultry producers had to dispose of large quantity of infected birds. In 2009 and 2010, the H1N1 virus, the swine flu as it also was called, spread around the globe. Smallpox and measles are viral contagious diseases. They are now considered to be almost extinct, but they used to be a threat to many. The challenging aspect of most virus-related diseases is that they have little knowledge of such vital information as their cycle, timing, and the transmission routes of respective epidemics. Furthermore, we have not really found decisive measures to deal with virus-related diseases or their spread. Prevention vaccinations are recommended against influenza, but as the flu virus is so quick to mutate, they are far from an absolute solution. Next is microorganism in human history. Microorganisms, called pathogens, are not limited to viruses. Tuberculosis, cholera, plague, dysentery, syphilis, and tetanus are all infections caused by microorganisms. Also, rickettsia and chlamydia are known as pathogens caused by infectious diseases. These contagious diseases have had a profound impact on human history. The plague known as the Black Plague swept throughout Europe in the middle of the 14th century. We now know that the fleas bearing plague bacillus caused its spread. 1/3 of the 100 million Europeans, or 30 million people, lost their lives during the Black Death Plague. The symptoms of infection with a deadly virus vary. Bubonic plague caused a high fever and swelling of lymphatic glands. Plague septicemia causes black spots. Lung plaque causes pneumonia, and so forth. It is assumed that the epidemic is repeated in a cycle of several hundred years. In the middle of the 19th century, bubonic plague caused the death of approximately 12 million people in China and India. You may think that this is a disease of the past, but it has been eradicated completely, as evidenced by the death of 50 people in India in 1994. In fact, there's quite a number of countries in Africa and South America which have been designed as plague-polluted regions by the World Health Organization. Typhus fever caused by the pathogen rickettsia is known to have caused several epidemics in history. Napoleon, who had taken Europe by storm, was compelled to retreat not just because of the harsh winter cold, but also because of the spread of typhus fever among his men. Smallpox and other infectious diseases caused epidemics that ravaged the Americas, following first contact with Europeans. Recently, anthropologists have come to believe that as much as 85 to 90% of the native population of Americas was killed off by microorganisms brought by Europeans. Get that. 85 to 90% of the native population of the Americas was killed off by microorganisms brought by Europeans. The single most important factor in the conquest of the indigenous civilization. Americas speak Spanish, English, Portuguese, and French today because of microbes. There are countless such cases in which contagious diseases have changed history. The smallpox vaccination method developed by the British physician Edward Jenner became popular all over the world, and as a result, the population of affected people declined gradually, and there was hardly anyone suffered from it by the end of World War II. The last diagnosed case of smallpox was in Somalia in 1977. This is why it is said that smallpox is the only contagious disease that humans have succeeded in eradicating. Measles, a contagious disease caused by measles virus, was once a common childhood ailment. I know from personal experience. Measles, chickenpox, and mumps were something we went through as kids in my era. Those infants and children who survived the disease developed immunity, and they did not contract the disease for the rest of their lives. Some adults who had not contracted measles in their infancy ended up dying in measles epidemics, which reportedly swept the world. Could antibiotics eradicate pathogens? We'll find out more tomorrow night in the next episode of Mung Bean Soup for the Soul. Thanks for joining me.